please let me know. But I've now begun recording, and we will proceed with our agenda as Daryl has sort of laid out. So today we'll have some brief urban impact updates, some featured speakers, and some open issues. Hopefully this is a forum. Because we have a really packed agenda today, I want to be respectful of everyone's time and give our time, give the space for our featured speakers to go forward. So we won't have sort of the depth of introductions or updates that we normally do at the beginning, but we'll go straight into that. So with that being said, Ms. Gilmore, I believe you're first. So thank you so much. I think you got you might have to unmute. I think you may have to unmute. Ms. Gilmore, I think you may have to unmute.
I think you're remuting me as I unmute myself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I have unmuted myself. So let me say good morning, good afternoon to Irv. And let me also acknowledge that Daryl or Elijah, somebody's been on the internet because they found that picture before I cut all my hair off. So I see somebody's been using that Google machine, but anyway, it's all good. So again, thank you. I want to say thank you to Daryl in his absence for inviting me to give a brief update, but I also want to thank and acknowledge Ivan and Elijah and the work, and Carla and the work that Urban Impact is doing. I am really so very proud of you, and please know that you do have my support as we work together to move the Civil Rights District and National Monument forward. So I was asked just to share a little bit about some city updates that we're undertaking, and really there are three. I did 3 slides, but I really don't know that we need them. And that would be, it's on 3 areas. I'm going to see if I can, oh, no. Elijah is not allowing me to share my screen. So let me just talk through 3 things that I'd like to share with you right now.
You have the ability to share your screen now, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay, so again, so I'm going to first talk about Atticus and Motel Restoration. Chris in his comments will talk about the National Park Service. I'm going to share with you just in general what the city of Birmingham and the work from my office and Office of Social Justice and Cultural Preservation. We are almost to the completion of the phase 1 restoration. The phase 1 restoration began, oh my gosh, I think we've been at it for about a year and or a little bit longer. I think maybe we started about September of October of 2019, and we anticipate completing that by year end. We have continued working through COVID and the pandemic. I'm very happy that our contractors, many of whom are local, were able to continue to work throughout this pandemic. And as you know, that's been one of the major issues, is keeping people employed and moving forward. And so what you see is really just a picture of, I always like to show the viewpoint from room 30, where Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend A.D. King, and the other civil rights leaders all gathered to plan and strategize Project C. What you see on the other, forgive my phone ringing, hopefully it'll stop. But what you'll see on to the left there is the construction when they were working on the roof and the front of the motel. So that is under restoration. We anticipate starting phase 2 in early next year. Phase 2 will be the exterior restoration of the 1968 wing, which is owned by the city of Birmingham. Phase 1, I will just again clarify, was the exterior restoration of the 1954 wing, which is owned by the National Park Service, and a new roof on the entire structure. And so we are working so that we can have the site available and open, but at least to people to be able to come on the grounds by the World Games, which is now 2022. A lot of that will still take place in the courtyard, as we will continue to actually define what the exact programming and interpretation of the site will be. But our short-term immediate goal is to at least for people to be able to access the site, if only on the courtyard. So that is one project that we continue to work on. Next is the City Walk, and hopefully everyone's familiar with City Walk. I know the Urban Impact has been deeply involved, as well as the other stakeholders in the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument and the neighborhoods of Fountain Heights and Smithfield. And so we are working along with the Alabama Department of Transportation, the Birmingham Department of Transportation, and the stakeholders that I just mentioned to really design and to define the blocks between 15th Street and 17th Street under the bridge, which is that part of City Walk, which is closest proximity to the Civil Rights District. And so we've had a number of opportunities to engage the ALDOT team and their consultants. We also are working now with a smaller group to actually try to define how that site can connect to the history and, quite frankly, the authenticity of the Civil Rights District. So please be on the lookout for hearing more about that initiative. And then I guess lastly is the initiative that I would like to share. As you are well aware, the Confederate Monument came down the weekend of May the 30th and 31st, following the murder of George Floyd. And we now have an internal working group that's really working to define what next for Lynn Park. The internal group will be expanded to an external group of stakeholders, those that have vested interest in the future of the park, those that have always, and that it is a big group. So basically, it's anybody that has an interest or an idea about what should happen in this space next. And I'll tell you that we've got lots of ideas that were emailed and that were sent following this event. So we're working because we see it as an opportunity to redefine this public space, to reimagine it, and in terms of, you know, what's next for it. And so that is something that I would encourage you to be on the lookout for invites to participate in stakeholder engagement and our public sessions as we move forward on that. And lastly, I would just share that I am acting in a capacity for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. The mayor asked that I would provide operating support. I am not the executive director. I'm acting as the special director of transition to provide operating support, along with Cheryl Kidd, the administrator, the council administrator, who provides guidance on governance and development. And so the two of us are working to support the BCRI Board of Directors and their staff, and just to help them through this period of transition for the next 6 months, offering our areas of expertise to help guide the Institute, and more than anything, to ensure that the Institute is able to survive this pandemic and come out stronger. And so that actually completes my remarks. I'm happy to entertain any questions if there are now. I do have to leave the call before the end of the call. So if there are questions, I'm happy to entertain them now. Thank
Can you
you.
go back to the city walk image for a second?
Yes.
Okay, I just hadn't seen it. I was just trying to.
And that's just block 15, the blocks between 15th and 17th. It actually runs all the way. I'm trying to think what the other end is.
Is it
Maybe
23rd?
22nd? I was gonna say the 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just the portion that our stakeholders were being engaged upon.
Okay. Thanks.
Denise, this is Irvin. Just wondering if you can share that rendering with us.
I actually have a document that has the entire city walk that I'm happy to get to Ivan so he can share that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And now, Elijah, I need to turn this back over to you.
Yes, ma'am, and it's fine. I'm it's back in my control. So thank you so much.
Oh, you have it? Okay.
Thank you so much, Denise. I think we're now ready to hear from Mr. Chris Butcher of the National Park Service. So welcome, Chris. It's good to see you again.
Thanks. It's good to see you as well. And again, just to kind of echo what Denise said, it really is a privilege to work with Urban Impact and all of the stakeholders here. It's really exciting and encouraging to be a part of something, so positive and so engaging, for the community. And again, the National Park Service and Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument are honored to be a part of it. And I also prepared a couple of slides. So if I could
Absolutely.
steal control. I couldn't let Denise one-up me too bad. So.
All right. It's in your hands.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yep, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So we are in the very late stages, the final stages of procuring office space for the National Monument staff. We are hoping that we'll be able to finalize the lease here at the end of the month or the first part of August. And so the idea is we'll be able to scale up our operations and hire more staff so we can really begin to work with each and every one of you and begin to provide some of the resources and the experiences that folks expect when they come to a national park site. So our new location will be the Forbes building on 4th Avenue and Suite 440. The Civil Rights Institute has been such a gracious host for many years at this point, but they're resource constrained just like everyone, and so it just wasn't feasible to scale up operations at that site, and so this will allow us to still stay close to the district and have that the resources and the facilities that we need to hire staff. And so our first hire is hopefully to be a project manager that will be funded by the National Park Foundation, which will allow us to manage the projects that we're looking to have locally. Kelly Kucharik in the regional office in Atlanta has overseen the Park Service piece of the Gaston restoration, and the Park Foundation is looking to help us primarily fund the majority of the interior part of the 54 side, and we're going to need that on the ground person that can help manage those funds and manage that project, and we're hoping to have them on board in November. We will be soliciting in our request for proposals for project managers in the next couple of weeks, and so if you know anybody that's a project manager, that it'll be a year term with renewable years up to 3 or 4. And so I'll make sure to send that out to you all, and please share widely. You know, we want to get someone that can help us move this thing forward. And again, the ultimate goal is that we can, you know, get the interior restoration of the Gaston started sooner rather than later, so we can be kind of a fully functioning and open operation. Which leads to the next piece is the biggest part of that is our general management plan. And I'm sure all of you who've been part of this process and this conversation with the National Park Service are so tired of hearing general management plan. I totally understand. But we are, here in the next slide, I'll tell you kind of where we are in the process. But in case you aren't aware of what a general management plan is or what it does for us, kind of very broadly and high level, it defines the actions that we as a Park Service need to take to preserve the resources, right? Specifically for us, the Gaston, but we have a unique opportunity because of the presidential proclamation to look at the larger resources that aren't Park Service owned or federally owned, but we can work together to manage those and have some guiding principles for how we can manage those together. It also outlines the types and general intensities of development, right? Visitor circulation, transportation patterns, transportation systems and modes to circulate around the monument. And with that, we have to identify and describe the carrying capacities for each of those sites and how we implement those commitments in each areas of the park, right? You know, the number of people we can have in the Institute will be different than we can have in, you know, the Gaston Motel, which is different than at the, you know, Masonic temple and the churches and what have you. So identifying those capacities and how folks need to circulate through each site is going to be really important. And also identify potential modifications to the boundaries of the park, if there are any, and why. You know, Bethel Baptist Church is one that has been discussed, you know, bringing them in, and are there ways to do that? Is that something they're interested in? Are there other kind of ancillary properties that lie just outside of the boundary that would make sense for us to adjust the boundary? So all of those pieces and things are being kind of talked about and identified, and the proposed alternatives are being drafted right now. And so that brings us to the schedule, which in March and April, it was supposed to be in person, right? Some intensive days, but we had to adapt because of COVID-19. But we did have calls with stakeholders to receive their input on what they wanted to see and how they wanted to work and interact with the National Monument and the National Park Service. And our contracting team took that input and is developing and refining draft alternatives. And so we're in the last kind of stages of fine-tuning those draft alternatives, and we're hoping in September, October, we'll be able to present those draft alternatives to those stakeholders for input, so we can, by winter and spring, have really clear, concise, hopefully, you know, well-thought alternatives that all of us will be happy with, no matter which way we kind of end up going, so that in the winter and spring we can provide, you know, open it up for public comment and input, so that when this process is over, we have a really tight, really well thought out document that is supported by, you know, stakeholders, the public, and everyone, that we can begin implementation very quickly. So those are again kind of the high level things that we're working at. Our hope of also hiring staff is we can get some rangers done that will allow us the opportunity to develop more programming, junior ranger books and things like that. You know, the Institute has been a wonderful host for our junior ranger stamps and things like that, which we know are popular, but we're hoping to develop a lot of virtual opportunities to experience the National Monument in light of the COVID-19 reality. And hopefully, whenever we get to that new normal and we can start being a little bit closer, working to provide those in-person experiences and touchstones. So like Denise, that concludes my presentation, but I also have to run before the end of the call. So if anyone has any questions, I would love to answer them.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that update. Any questions for Chris at this time?
Yeah, Chris, this is Irvin Henderson again with Historic District Developers. Number one, I'd like to have HDD added to this stakeholder list because we would love to give you some feedback on the alternatives and be engaged in that process. We love that. And then I guess the other thing that I would ask, is there a plan for there to be monument-wide free Wi-Fi hotspot?
So if there is a plan, I'm not aware of it. I think that the urban impact and providing Wi-Fi in the business district gets into the civil rights district pretty extensively. I don't know if it's completely covered or not. Ivan or Elijah would probably be better to answer that than I am.
Absolutely. So we are having expanded conversations with partners and to include Alabama Power around this conversation. I think one of the things that we've talked about is the entire district being a learning laboratory, and by making sure that there is Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, we can sort of, induce the whole conversation around this educational piece and serenity and the whole 9 yards. So we're hoping that we can move that conversation along, but I think people like you asking about it will help us make the case for it because we think that it just needs to be a part of the fabric of the district.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. When we were, and Denise will remember this, when we were working on the whole plan, for the Motel and Supper Club and for the monument, we talked about that as families walked through the monument, we wanted them to have access to these resources via Wi-Fi, but we also wanted to have the ability to bombard them with video coupons and special offers and to bring the commerce part of the district alive, to be able to contact and work with folks. Literally, as you come out of the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, you'd get a coupon that says, by the way, your ticket here gives you $1 off on your meal at Green Acres. That's just an example of the kind of connectivity that would make folks, certainly have more opportunities. But you also want to promote the other programming. As Mr. Butcher has mentioned, you want to make sure that visitors know of all of the different kinds of programming. There's a small art gallery here. There's a small historic enclave here. I think about people like a couple of folks who are prominent within the development community there, who are in the process of restoring an historic home, and they will have all kinds of exhibits within that historic home. So we want the visitors to the larger monument venues to hear about those small, and we want the visitors to the small to hear more about what's available in the large. And that kind of connectivity will make this a 21st century experience. I'm excited.
I have a question, Chris. This is Selena Rogers Dickerson, and you mentioned that that National Parks is looking to procure various services. Is that going to be something listed on Fed Biz Ops, or is it going to be something that's going to be solicited locally through, or Urban Impact Rev or the city?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the project manager position, that'll be solicited through your typical channels, LinkedIn, things like that, because it'll be funded by the National Park Foundation. That position will essentially be a contractor for the National Park Foundation, but they will kind of be given instruction by us through kind of the unique partnership agreement that we have with the National Park Foundation. But any other services that the Park Service is trying to procure, that'll go through our standard channels of Fed Biz Ops and SAM and all of that stuff. Even the leasing space had to be listed in SAM for a couple of weeks so folks could, provide their proposals and what have you. So yeah, anything that we do moving forward, we'll go through FedBiz Ops. The only time it wouldn't is if it's a partner-funded agreement and they have their own kind of way to solicit it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kristofer, for that and all the questions. We're going to move now to Rob Budo is not here, but representing Rev Birmingham and City Action Partnership is Atticus Rominger. So we're going to ask him, Major co-host, so go ahead and pop your slide on the screen.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elijah, and good morning to everybody. You know, as Ivan was saying earlier, we're making a lot of lemonade these days, and you know, one of the great things coming out of this is our continually growing partnership with Urban Impact. You know, from the planning that Ivan and David and so many others have been doing around the Northwest quadrant. To Elijah, I know you've been working very closely with our business growth team and 15 agencies in total, and the Rebound Birmingham offering to small businesses to help give them the services they need to sort of stay alive, and of course our work with the CAP program, you know, and making sure that we are keeping the district as clean and safe as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share. You should be seeing a slide that we have that just gives a little bit of snapshot, and I'll provide some context to that. You know, certainly we know that since shelter in place and the continuing self-quarantining that so many folks are doing, that we've seen a massive decrease in foot traffic and a massive decrease in the numbers of downtown workers who are there on a daily basis. And we know that a decrease in foot traffic really can lead to an increase in crimes of opportunity. So we have been focused on very proactive additional patrols throughout the district. Another way that we have been pivoting a lot during the pandemic has been in our emphasis on sanitizing frequently touched hard surfaces in the district, those public surfaces, you know, whether those are public benches or so things as simple that you never think about, like crosswalk buttons. No one ever cleans those. We've been sanitizing and cleaning those to make sure that we are, you know, cutting down on any potential community transmission. Also, in the midst of all this, we know that we, over the weekend of May 31st into June 1st, we had civil unrest that included some damage in the district. Our ambassadors were first on the scene that morning to many of the properties that experienced damage. We were recording a lot of that damage, reporting it into the city, notifying property owners who didn't know of the damage that they had, and partnering with Public Works to clean up glass and debris in the district very quickly that morning. And leading up to that weekend, we have been very proactively patrolling the district, looking for loose bricks, rocks, anything like that that could be used to damage property. And we have continued that work since, making sure that we are preventing any sort of simple destruction or crimes of opportunity there. On another note, we've been working very closely with One Roof and other homeless services providers to stay up to date on shelter protocols through COVID. Jessica Evans, who is our homeless outreach coordinator, is still providing rides through the VIA program to folks who need to get to testing sites and service providers, and that's one of the paths that they now have to actually be able to get people into shelters during this time. Also, for you guys to know, the city of Birmingham has hired a homeless liaison. Her name is Brenda Durham, and she's working directly in the mayor's office, working with Ms. Gilmore. And both Jessica and the CAP leadership and the REV leadership, we've all met individually with Ms. Durham. We've discussed the various issues and concerns and what her path forward looks like, and how we can be a partner in, you know, not just sort of doing the daily sort of management, but how we can be working towards really systemic solutions to some of the issues we're facing. So we're really optimistic about the collaboration there, and excited that that position is new. And Ms. Gilmore, we thank you for your leadership on that and helping to bring that new position to bear. So, you know, just on the slide here, a couple things to note. You know, almost 400 business interactions that we've recorded. Panhandling removals continue to be something that we're watching, and you can see from the heat map in the upper right hand corner, a lot of that work is focused in the Kelly Ingram Park area. In fact, if you sort of move over to the extra patrol requests, you can see that sort of met with continuing requests for service. And you can see that's also in the bottom right corner where we focus so much of our homeless outreach work. So A grand total of 32,000 minutes in the district in the second quarter, and we anticipate that to continue and even grow a little bit as we're adding on a little more capacity right now to be able to spend, even more time out on the street. Also over there on the left-hand side, you see near the bottom, campsite removals, 40 in the district, and that is a continuing concern of ours as we try to make sure that people are finding appropriate shelter and not sheltering in the district in a way that leads to property damage or just general foot traffic issues for our businesses in the urban impact district. So that's about it. On a sort of non-cap note, we did some pretty significant work over the last quarter in talking with downtown business owners, including working with Urban Impact to gather information from businesses from the 4th Avenue Business District. And we've compiled that all into a report, State of Small Business in Downtown Birmingham report. That report is available on our website at revbirmingham.org and really gives a sense of some of the challenges their recommendations and some of the things that we're really working to hopefully implement over the next few weeks and months so that we can extend the lifeline and give a little more runway to these businesses until the time that hopefully their sort of natural market, the downtown workforce, returns in numbers that sustain them. Any questions on any of that?
Hey,
Not
Atticus,
a
this is
question.
Selena.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
okay. I should say I did not have a question, but I just wanted to make a statement. I wanted to thank you first of all for acknowledging Brenda Durham, but I also wanted to clarify and say that it was the mayor's priority and Mayor Woodfin that wanted to have a liaison that was focused on homelessness in the city. We have the privilege that she is now aligned with our social justice team. So, but thank you for that. But it truly was the mayor's vision and the mayor's priority to bring a homelessness liaison onto the mayor's office team of social justice. So thank you.
Yeah, great to hear.
Atticus, could you speak a little bit toward the murals and sort of the strategy for the boards and stuff like that?
Yeah, obviously in the very early days immediately following May 31st, June 1st, we saw a very organic, sort of community-driven movement to cover so much of the plywood that was put up with murals. And, that was not sort of organized by Rev or Urban Impact or any one group. It was pretty organic. But at a certain point, we started recognizing that there was a need for, potentially those murals to come down, that it was time for businesses to reopen and they needed to know what to do with that artwork. And so, while it is not up to us to decide what the ultimate disposition of that artwork is, we did feel like we could play a role of facilitator in making sure there was a very inclusive conversation about what the future of those pieces should be. Frankly, there was a reaction coming, in lots of different ways. Some people were critical of the mural. Some people, really felt like they were powerful and important. Some people felt like they were important as temporary art. And others felt like they had a role to really live on and continue to push for conversation. And so we just felt like we had an opportunity to play a convening role. We have had 2 focus groups where we have invited business owners, property owners, artists, social justice advocates, folks from sort of the professional art community here, folks from the city and BCRI. We've extended lots of invitations to a couple of good conversations that we hosted. We've wrapped all that feedback up into a report that's got sort of several very differing recommendations, and we should be having a draft of that report to share with the folks who participated in that, and and Urban Impact and BCRI and others. Hopefully within the next week or so, we'll be able to share that. Again, it's not ours to make the decision about what happens with that artwork. We just wanted to make sure that we were playing a part in having a really inclusive conversation so that all points could be heard and shared in one platform.
Hey, Atticus, it's Selena. How are you?
Good, Selena. How are you?
Oh, so far, so good. Thank you. In regards to CAPS and the footprint, expanding it, and I know seeing the presentations on Switch, and I know sometimes when I'm in the district, I don't see CAPS go down as far as I think it's 3rd Avenue. Is there a plan to expand the footprint some to, since, you know, people are on their feet and their district is expanding, to expand the footprint over towards the west, south a little bit more, and if so, you know, is there a timeline associated with that?
Yeah, so the CAP district currently, its east-west boundaries are 16th Street on the west and 22nd Street on the east. And we actually field pretty consistent requests from folks really on all boundaries to expand the district. As you probably know, and Ivan may be talking a little bit more about this later on in this call, you know, there's some extensive planning work being done in this northwest corridor, taking in both the Switch and the Civil Rights District and determining the future. Those early discussions and that early planning already is generating a lot of ideas of projects or resources that are needed for the future to make some of the improvements that are wanted to happen. And one of the natural ways to resource that kind of work is through a business improvement district, which is the tool really that funds the CAP program. And so we are in conversations with sort of, you know, that resource members of that resource group and other major property holders about their interest in expanding the district. We do have sort of a model put together, an early business model for that in the Switch portion of that. And we are happy to sit down and talk with any business, any building owners, property owners who are west of 16th Street to help them understand how this process works and to explore it. For you to know, ultimately, it is a vote of the property owners. This is not something that sort of government or an agency does to a district. Property owners band together and sign on and decide to form this district. And so we really are offering sort of back office campaign support for any property owners who are interested in pushing that forward.
Could you give me the eastern boundary of the district?
Yes, sir. That's 22nd Street on the east. So the transportation building is just one block over, isn't that right?
1st Avenue. Yeah, it's on. No, transportation building is on the corner, 22nd and 1st.
Yeah, so you're just outside of it. It's you know, the block that is to the west of 22nd Street is in. The block that's to the east of 22nd Street is not in.
The block
The
is
current
to the
CAP
west.
district.
Okay, the block to the west of 22nd Street. 22nd Street is the dividing line.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if I'm on the western side of 22nd Street, I'm in. If I'm on the eastern side, which I am, I'm really not in it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, Mr. Hendricks, I'll follow up with you. We have talked on the phone briefly. I'd love to follow up with you with a presentation about the Loft District, because there's a group of folks who are really interested in expansion into the Loft District as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Atticus, thank you so much and for that presentation. For those who just joined, we had presentations from Denise Gilmore, Kristofer Butcher at the National Park Service, and that was Rev and Cap. So now we'll move into the second half of our presentations around development opportunities. And so we'll have Mr. Creig Hoskins. Creig, I believe, of giving you access if you have any slides that you'd like to share, just in case, from Studio 2H Design around the Carver Theater, immediately followed by Historic District Developers and Mr. Holloway. So we do have some more speakers. This meeting is being recorded, and so we'll ask that you may hold some of your questions until the end, just so that we can make sure we make the necessary time. So Creig, you're up.
All right. Thank you. Let me know when you all see my screen.
You see it?
We see it.
Okay. All right. Good. Basically, I'm just going to talk about the what's happening with the Carver Theater. We have a few deadlines that we're trying to achieve. The building is broken up into two parts in the way it's being constructed so that we can move the building along as fast as possible. We have what we call the theater building and then the Jazz Hall of Fame building. The theater building is actually where the seating, tiered seating takes place. We're scheduled to begin putting finishes in that portion of the building next month, August the 26th through the end of the year. And then we're going to punch it starting, by punch I mean we come in and do our final review of it to approve it starting the first quarter of next year, February the 3rd, and hopefully have it all completed by the 23rd of February. That's for the theater portion of the building. The Jazz Hall of Fame building, we've removed the roof, we've removed all of the flooring, we've removed all of the slope flooring that was inside of that portion of the building. The new roof is scheduled to be put on begin the 24th of September and be finished by the 5th of October. You may have noticed that they've started dismantling portion of the marquee sign. They've taken the marquee sign to their shop so that they can create a mold so that we can have an exact replica of what was there. So that has begun, and it should be finished sometime by the end of November. We're expecting to begin cleaning and trimming out the exterior, meaning putting in the new windows, the new doors, and so forth. That begins the end of December and the end of November and continue through the middle of December. And hopefully by that time, the building will be completely closed in. We'll have air and lighting in so that we can begin the finishing in that area, which will begin on the 23rd of October and go through March 21st. And then we will be finished with that portion of the building in April of 21. I do have a few photos of what's happening on the inside. Let me see if I can get to them. And these are just my reports, so the photos may not be as pretty as you would like them to be, but they are construction photos. What you're looking at is we're inside what I call the theater building. I am literally on the balcony looking. I'm on the stage looking at the balcony.
Hey, Creig is not projecting.
It's not?
No, we only see your agenda.
Oh. Let me try it again. Let me try resume. Is it there now?
Yes.
Yeah, now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're now standing on the balcony. On the stage looking at the balcony. The work that's happening at the balcony now, they're cutting out that portion that used to be a projection screen so that we can get the appropriate seating and sight lines in place. That work is occurring right now. This image here, the second one, is us underneath the balcony looking at the new stage design. The new stage now has a new back of house, has ADA accessibility, has storage, restrooms, just a workable stage now. The stage is a little smaller and more intimate, designed for jazz. Here's an image of us in the balcony looking at them starting to install the framing to support the second floor storage area. And you can't really tell from the photos, but they've already installed all of the walls that are going to go up in the theater area. These are just images of the back of house. That little wood ramp there, that is the area that leads you to the outside. That's a temporary ramp. We'll have a removal ramp there that will be used to bring in heavy equipment and stage equipment. Here is this area here is the new wheelchair platform at the balcony. We're extending the balcony out, as I stated earlier, changing the sight line so that every seat in the theater has a view of the stage. Currently, if you're at the back of this, if you're at the top of the stage, top of the balcony in the back row, you can't see about a third of the front of the stage. So all of that has been rectified. We've changed the riser heights so that we can accomplish better sight lines. This is over at the Jazz Hall of Fame. That's not a new skylight, that's the roof missing. We removed the old roof because we didn't have the height that we needed because all of the ramps and the roof being lower in that area. And we are now taking the finished floor of the theater and aligning it with the new Jazz Hall of Fame display area, so that we basically created more square footage in the building that was there before because of the holes that were in the building. So I don't know if you can see my little hand moving, but that line is approximate location of the second floor. This image here is of the existing second floor that we will be tying into and connected and going across, creating a much larger exhibit space. The new roof goes on here. That section right there rises up a little higher so that we can get more clearance inside of the exhibit space. This is just an existing stair that we could not remove, and we maintain it to get you from the first floor to the basement and from the first floor to the second floor. These are new openings that will be occurring along 4th. As you're aware right now, there's literally no light getting into the what we call the public space. You know, the circulation, the spaces from inside the building. When people exit the theater, they come out and you're in a dark cave. So what we've done is open the theater up to the street so that people can see the activities happening on the inside. This hole that you see here, this is where the existing elevator was. We've relocated the elevator to be more inboard. And let's see if I can get to it. Okay, here we go. This is, if you're looking, as soon as you walk into the theater, to the Jazz, give me a second to find the photo. It's on another one. Okay, here we go. If you're inside the Jazz Theater and you're leaving and headed toward 4th, this is the ticket booth, the former ticket booth. We're maintaining that as part of the exhibit space. And this area here where you see all of the mud, to my right is where the new elevator is going. And this area right here, with figure 16, we have dug out and they've already installed the pit for the new elevator. And this view here where I'm standing right now, if I would say most of this area here will become the administrative area, reception area, and so forth. The area where you see my little hand and you see wood, that will be all glass so that you can see from the street and be able to look in. That's about it. You can, at some point in time, I'm sure Ivan and his group will want to do a walkthrough, and then we'll get as many people as we can to make sure that we're safe and distancing and so forth. And at some point in time, we would like for the community to have a first look before we open it up to the public. But that's it. I'm open for questions if anyone has any.
Hey, Creig, this is fantastic, man. Thank you so much for the presentation and the timeline. That gives us, something to really look forward to. Quick question. So when this is all said and done and it's ready for presentation, what kind of activities can the community expect to be going on in the theater portion of this facility?
Well, a lot of that is going to be dictated by the director, and that is Ms. Tucker. Currently, they teach classes there. Kids come there that are, I guess you can call them exceptional. That come there to hone their skill and their talent. There will be, you still have plays here. You still have jazz concert. The idea is to still have selected movies of that kind, and it's also open to the public. Meaning that there's an area where let's say you want to put on an event or something like that. We have an area that we call the bar area where a person can rent that space and use it for a wedding or whatever purpose they want to use it for. So the programming is coming directly from the Jazz Hall of Fame. Right now, I'm not part of the programming part of it, but we've designed it so that it's flexible. It's not stagnant. It has to be flexible and it has to be self-sufficient. So that's how we've designed it.
Great, thank you, Creig. I think that was an adequate response for what I needed to know. So that's great. Any other questions for Mr. Hoskins?
I have one. When all is said and done, Creig, how many more seats would the theater part have?
The theater has become more intimate. I think we have 570 or 80 seats. One of the problems that we had is that from a code standpoint, we had no fire separation between the people in the theater and the performers, meaning the back of the house. So we had to put that in. And then because of all of the slopes and the ramps and everything else that was in the building and the grades outside the building, we had to create internal ramps in order to get you to the stage. We wanted to eliminate having those big objects in the middle of the theater, which became part of the theater. So we've eliminated all that. And the board wanted this to be a more intimate space for jazz and the like. So it used to be a movie theater, which meant you had 1,500 seats or however many it had back in the day. But that has been culled down, and a lot of it has to do with code issues and the like, and making sure that we get sight lines. The sight lines were our major concern, and the acoustics. So because we didn't have good sight lines, the balcony was basically, you were buying a ticket, but you could only see 2/3 of the stage. So if a person was on the first 1/3 of the stage, you couldn't see them. You could hear them, but you couldn't see them. So we've rectified that, but our seating is, I think, about 584, if I'm not mistaken. I've got the drawings around here somewhere. I can call you and give you that if you want to know the exact number. And we had to account for a lot more ADA accessible spaces in the theater than we did before, which took up, maybe 10 extra seats. But we think it's intimate. We think it meets the function that the board wants it to meet now, and still serve the community the way it did in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Creig, I have a quick question. I think I may have missed it. You may have discussed it earlier. There was an orchestra pit or something between the stage, and so you've removed that.
No, the orchestra pit was there. It's still there. It was just covered up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is not accessible. In order to get to the orchestra pit requires a lot of room, meaning that we would destroy even more seats. So the orchestra pit, we just left it in place, covered it. We literally extended the stage another, I want to say 6 feet forward, so that we can get a larger stage, because we were losing space because we had to put all of the back of house information in. And our sight lines allowed us to be able to move the stage forward and still maintain where the existing seating started. So I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
Mr. Hoskins,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you so much for the presentation. Do we have any other questions? Well, great. Well, Mr. Hoskins, thank you so much for the presentation.
No problem.
Fantastic. And I'm sure people can reach out to Studio 2H in their great work. So now we're at 12:30. I think the initial invite called for us to be at 1 o'clock. So for our remaining speakers, just sort of be aware, because we want to make sure that we finish in that time. So now we have Historic District Developers by Gizmo Abbas and Irv Henderson to give an update on what Historic District Developers is doing, particularly with the Masonic Temple and other initiatives, and followed by Mr. Holloway for the Northwest Quadrant. So I will give you access if you need it, and we can go from there. Who should I give access to?
I'll let Irvin go.
Okay, great.
I was going to say I can start and Gizman can follow up. So good afternoon to everybody. It's great to see some of you who have not seen for a good period of time, and I look forward to seeing more of you in the coming future. Hope everybody is well in terms of the COVID piece and all other kinds of things, and hope that your families are doing well, and hope that your colleagues are doing well. So the Masonic Temple project is moving right along. We have completed the historic structures report. We've also completed the state historic tax credit application. And during the last 3 weeks, we've been fielding questions from community development entities about New Markets tax credits. And we have both local and distant CDEs that are interested, and we're moving toward the agreements with them, filling out the intake forms and getting letters of intent. Same thing is happening with the leasing. We are working with anchor tenants and working with some of the smaller tenants to come up with overall letters of intent for the leasing. The architects now are beginning their work on what the restoration itself will look like. We're still dealing with the back of house issues, but we are expeditiously moving ahead with them. And we look forward to seeing exactly what kind of progress can be made within the next few weeks in reference to the project. Let me see, what did I leave out? The leasing is ongoing, as I mentioned, and we still have space. If there is anyone that has an interest, you can reach us through Urban Impact, and you can always reach us directly. We're very, very glad to have those conversations. Other than that, the only thing I would say is yesterday we did have a visit to the district that was aided by Darrell Washington, in which one of the Opportunity Zone funds was there. They were able to look at the facility, and they had very positive feelings about our plans for redevelopment. They will be returning to the district to look at all of the rest of the artifacts that are there, and they'll be concentrating on the A.G. Gaston office building next. We also expect to have those same kind of visits done by a couple of the bank individuals. I'm working with Regions on their next site visit. We're doing the same thing with Truist, and we're doing the same thing with a couple of other institutions. And that is my report. Giz, did you want to add anything?
Nope. I'm a man of few words. I yield back my time to the gentleman from Birmingham, as they say in Congress.
Great, thank you so much, Irv. Any questions of Irv Gizman with respects to the Masonic Temple? Okay,
Elijah, you're muted.
Elias?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
The ballroom portion of the Masonic Temple was of great interest historically for coordination with the Jazz Hall of Fame. Actually, most of the historic jazz happenings and any other happening of note to the Black cultural community happened at the Masonic Temple in that ballroom. What plans do you all have, if you have plans, to restore that historic space?
Well, the ballroom is the gem of the entire building. You're 100% right. And the ballroom is also where the greatest character defining features in terms of the historic preservation of the Pythian Mason symbols. The ballroom is it. And so there will be no part of the facility that will receive as much meticulous work as the ballroom, no question about it. Also, from a design standpoint, you take your time and you're very careful about bringing that spiritual space back because it's absolutely special. Now, it's important to emphasize two things. There will be a property manager for the entire facility. and there will be an operator that will be chosen who will operate that space. It will continue to be a performing arts space as well as a meeting and event space. And we very much, part of what HDD has been promoting from the beginning is a coordinated approach of all stakeholders. Ted over at 16th Street, Dr. Walker, Denise, several of the other churches, the Masons themselves, they will all tell you that what we want is a coordinated schedule, literally where you would be looking on the web for events in Birmingham, and you would get a website that would come up that would show you all of these entities, what's scheduled there, how they interact, and how they're being promoted. So we absolutely extend that invitation to the Carver Theater and its operators and its stakeholders, whereby we want to coordinate. And I'll just tell you, one of my dreams is a Birmingham Civil Rights Jazz Festival, in which we will have all of these venues operating over the course of say a week to a week and a half. They do that at several venues around the country, especially in California. And you may have, within a district like the Historic District, you may have 8 or 9 venues that are sponsoring jazz and blues. In this case, we would obviously, work with jazz primarily. But you have those venues operating at the same time. The restaurants and the other service businesses and the other retailers benefit from people being there. You get a lot of publicity around, who the acts are, and you can accommodate folks who generate small audiences with folks that generate larger audiences. So we are completely available for that, and we would love to talk with the operators about how we can make that happen.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Any additional questions of Irv or Gisman? Well, thank you so much, Irv. As always, we look forward to our continued partnership and opportunities to work together. Last but not least, I guess it's me in terms of being able to bring you up to speed on the Northwest Quadrant plan. So let's see if I can figure out how to share my screen. If I can do that well, then we will be hitting on all cylinders, I guess. So let's see, share. Great, I think I did it. Okay, so again, my name is Ivan Holloway, Executive Director of Urban Impact, and serving as really the facilitator for the Northwest Quadrant redevelopment plan. This is a plan that covers both the Civil Rights District as well as the Switch District, which was formerly named the Innovation District. So this is a partnership with, again, Urban Impact, Birmingham, the City of Birmingham, and Alabama Power. This particular project is fully funded by Alabama Power, and we expect that this process will at least be a 10-month process. But much like many of you talked about a few minutes ago, with respects to all of the working parts in the district, this is an effort to bring all of those working parts together, but then have a master process, if you will, going forward for coordination and design and making sure that we capture every bit of it. So we went through a process of about 7 months, and there were about 9 organizations who responded to our request for proposals. And after several delays with COVID-19, we finally got back jump-started, and we selected a team. The team that you see before you is a team that is made together by CCR, which is a local architectural firm, and MKSK, which is a national planning firm out of Ohio, and we're working with a group out of Greenville, South Carolina. So it's Tammy, it's Rominger with CCR, Tammy Roman with CCR, Mr. John Castile, who's with the Greenville County Redevelopment Authority. It is Development Strategies Principal Brian Licari, and then the two primaries at MKSK, Mr. Andrew Overbeck, and the principal who's in charge of the planning process is Darren Meyer. It is my expectation that each person on this phone will get a chance to meet this team and be interviewed by the team and work with the team over time, because again, our goal is to build a seamless process around development opportunities as we move forward. The plan that we are seeking to develop for both the the switch and the Civil Rights District is not just a plan for the sake of doing a plan. This will be an actionable strategy by which we will have a series of strategies that will be developed to deploy immediately to assist with development, assist with preservation, assist with business attraction, and assist with business growth. For those of you who don't know, these are the boundaries of the northwest quadrant of downtown. It follows I-5920 to 65 down to Morris Avenue, which is railroad tracks, and following 18th Street north and south. And you see we are in the heart of the we're in the southern portion of the Fountain Heights neighborhood, and you see the two districts that are highlighted, the Switch and the Civil Rights District. Very, very quickly, we have developed a set of guiding principles for this project, and the first being we're going to build on the assets. We have a strong civil rights story, we have a strong innovation story. We just have a strong history in Birmingham. And so building on our assets is our first guiding principle. Looking forward is our second one, making sure that we appeal to the next generation. As much as I want to stay young, I can't. And so we want to make sure that we pass this down and we build a community that is attractive and has all the attributes that the next generation will actually be a part of. Build up the local and attract the global. We believe that we have a wonderful story to tell. We have wonderful entrepreneurs. We have wonderful history. We've got just so much that we want to make sure that our local community is engaged in and is able to become a part of this. But at the same time, we're building up the local. We want to make sure that we create this environment that speaks to our history, but also attracts the global community. As some of you know, we've got several sites that often touch the global community on individual visits, but we want to make the whole district glow to the world so that everyone understands that what happened here in Birmingham and what continues to happen in Birmingham is global worthy. Return to community. One of the things that I know, Elias, I'm not trying to tell your age, but I know you can appreciate this. That part of downtown was a community. It had homes, it had restaurants, it had businesses, it had the fabric of the African-American community at one time. And the Switch community had very much the same thing. And one of the things that we want to do with this process is reweave some of that fabric to the point to where there is this community that is a part of every aspect of housing, economics, the physical growth, the social fabric as well. And then lastly, as I talked about, this is not a plan just to be doing a plan. This is an action-oriented strategy by which we will be looking at different development opportunities along the way and moving specific strategies to make those developments happen. Very, very quickly, our process really is community engagement, and community engagement. Making sure that every voice is heard, building on the assets that the community has, and then making sure that we build in the next set of assets in the next iteration. So building on the strengths of the local community, then building for people, making sure that we're not just building monuments for building monuments, but we're building a community that people can thrive in. It creates a sense of place, it creates a sense of community, and it attracts new development opportunities. Then lastly, long-term value, creating wealth for Birminghamians, and we want to make sure that we create opportunities to capture value in everything that we do. Again, the idea here is, you know, you guys own property, you guys invest in the community. We want to make sure that you get a return in your investment. We want to make sure, though, that those folks who have been left out of the equity stake in these kinds of developments have an opportunity to participate. So that's what we're heading on. Again, I stated we have about a 10-month process. We're at the end of July, and we're really just now setting up our operations, making sure that we understand who we need to touch in terms of local partners and developers and the whole 9 yards. Then we'll be moving in the late summer into the fall, looking at district opportunities, what's on the ground now, and what kind of systems can actually be put to work. And then lastly, the last phase is really trying to do those things that I talked about, creating those opportunities for development and making sure that there's opportunity for those folks who typically don't invest in these kind of projects have an opportunity to be a part of the economic growth of the next iteration of Birmingham. So we talked about community engagement. In COVID-19, again, part of this has to be shifted to the online format, but we can't do this kind of work, planning and visioning without people. So we're gonna be creating all kinds of small forums online so that people have an opportunity to weigh in. And when it's appropriate for us to actually meet face-to-face, we'll definitely do that as well. So very, very quickly, the importance of what we're trying to do is to really build this vision, this overlay of, if you will, of opportunity for this particular part of town. And so put people first, making sure that the community is involved. Start early with community engagement. We don't want to wait till the end. We're starting right at the very beginning. We want to empower our decision making, make sure that we provide meaningful opportunities for folks in the community to have a stake in what is being said and what's being done. And then lastly, making sure that we are held accountable to reaching our consensus and that we are being as transparent as we possibly can through this process. Very, very quickly, so the way it works is we've got these various roundtables that we will convene, both neighborhood residents, faith community, business community, civil rights leadership, Generation Y and Z, innovation builders, and others that will really be the format for making sure that we get all of the information. That information flows into a solutions group, which is really our advisory group, and you'll get a chance to see some of those names in a few minutes. And then we have a series of focus groups. And again, the group that is stewarding this process is the working group, which is the list that I called a few minutes ago: Alabama Power, Urban Impact, Rev Birmingham, and the Mayor's Office of the City of Birmingham. And then that will lead to the Northwest Quadrant Master Plan. So very quickly, the advisory group includes a number of people. Some of them you may recognize their names, and others you will hopefully get a chance to know over time. But we've got this wonderful group of people who have a vested stake, from both a property ownership to a community social capital investment, making sure that how we move and how we unite the district around this theme of civil rights and economic prosperity for all is what we're shooting for. So I can go on and on and on, but I will end there and take any questions from anybody on the call. Thank you so much. I like this class, no questions. So
good afternoon, Irvin. Good afternoon, Mr. Holloway. How are you doing?
Hey, fine, Omar. How are you, sir?
Great. My question is, how are we including the existing owners with capital resources? I mean, everybody wants to be a part of this development. I mean, I'm blessed to be a part of the Switch District, but you know, the existing owners that are there and been there forever, we're talking about a huge investment in redeveloping their buildings to be a part of these different plans. How are we plan on including existing owners and getting capital to renovate their buildings?
That's a very good question. So part of this process is looking at a couple of many national models around access to capital and making sure that we develop the right development funds, that we develop the right tools and strategies that can be used locally, right? So we don't want to necessarily just take what they're doing somewhere else, but we want to be able to take what we know is a proven model and modify it to the Birmingham community. And part of that is having those conversations with property owners and business owners like yourself to understand what those needs are, so that we tailor those products and services to fit your need. I will tell you, access to capital is a huge challenge, and we want to make sure that we bring those kind of resources to the table, so that you get a chance to have every opportunity to, you know, reinvest in your building. So long story short, we don't have the product yet, but through this process, we will build those products and tailor them to really fit the needs of this particular district. Anybody else? Okay, so thank you so much. So Omar, I hope I can reach out to you to participate in some of these calls around capital access and some of the challenges that property owners are having, so that we can make sure that we solve those kinds of problems with this strategy.
I'd be more than happy.
Thank you so much. Okay, Elijah. Did I lose Elijah too?
I'm still here.
Okay, very good.
Thank you so much. If we have any other questions, we would definitely like to do it. We're finishing on time, so thank you to all of the presenters and speakers today. And for those with questions, just as a recap for those who may have joined later, today's session, very informative session, has been recorded for posterity, and we'll make sure it's distributed very soon. We heard updates from Denise Gilmore at the City of Birmingham, Kristofer Butcher from the National Park Service, Atticus Rominger from CAP and Birmingham, Irv Henderson, Studio 2 HD Design, Historic District Developers, and Mr. Holloway. So as you can see, much of your engagement is really beginning to take shape and form. And so we definitely solicit and continue, and are grateful to serve and in partnership. In Daryl's absence, I want to thank Daryl for bringing this fantastic update together, and he will be in further touch with you in terms of making sure that all questions can be answered and assisting on individual projects. So with that being said, I know that we do have some folks on the call, you know, I would maybe want to take 2 minutes for everyone to do just a brief introductions. Typically we do that at the beginning, and then we'll close. So Adrian, we can start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Adrian Newton, and I recently purchased a property on 4th Avenue, 1623.
Thank you so much. I think David. David, are you still on the call? I guess David is not there. So we heard from Omar, and we heard from Mr. Deborah. The Hendricks.
Hello. Nice, and Danielle Hendricks here.
Developers of the transportation building downtown on 1st Avenue, and owners of We Care Academy, 4th Avenue North.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we also had Ms. Youngblood in our office, and Selena Rogers Dickerson. And then we have, I think, Delpha on the call from Valley Bank, one of our partners. So thank you for that and being on the call today. So with that being said, please let us know if you have any updates with your properties, any things that you need assistance to, please reach out to Daryl. And we want to make sure that you are involved. If you have any spaces for lease, we always have a robust and vibrant pipeline of folks seeking to be in the district. So with that being said, if there are any other comments or concerns, we'll move to close.
I think that's it, Elijah. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. It's been very, very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Urban Impact, thanks to Ivan, Elijah, Carla, and Daryl. Thank you so much.
Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you.